Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. Allincrypto here, and today we are going to be continuing to explore what I believe is one of the biggest opportunities that presents itself with this entire Web3 blockchain distributed ledger technology movement, and that is DePIN, decentralized physical infrastructure. Now, if you think about Web3, it is essentially supposed to be the next generation of the internet, giving you your privacy and sovereignty back. And that is currently not available on Web2, which essentially is the current form of the internet. And the infrastructure that runs the internet, like data storage, like the actual networks, the infrastructure that runs the networks, like the computing, like all these other kind of areas and hardware that runs the internet, is currently owned by some of the largest companies in the world. And they own your data and have the rights to it and ultimately have a monopoly on the internet. They're called the cloud lords. And actually, the people that run the infrastructure for the current web, the current internet, make up some of the largest companies in the world. And let's just take a look at some of the largest companies in the world to identify these key infrastructure individuals. Like Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia with their GPUs is now the fourth largest company in the world. And there are GPU plays in regards to the crypto space, the Web3, in regards to the likes of Render and others. Live Peer, we're going to do a whole video on that. We are going to be looking at a specific sector within the DePIN space. So you've got lots of different things, just like lots of different cryptos do lots of different things. DePIN has different sectors. I'm going to be looking at a specific one in the form of networks, internet networks, and actually things like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. You know, it all comes under this kind of network umbrella of DePIN. But you can see the likes of Amazon, Google, Meta, you know, the largest companies in the entire world essentially are the largest companies in the entire world because they own the infrastructure that the internet is built upon and thus command a great power over the world, as the internet is the preferred form of communication nowadays. It is the form of communication and the source of information. So it's no wonder that these companies are the largest in the world. And with the spawn of the cryptocurrency movement, Bitcoin sought to decentralize and, can I say democratize? Probably not. Money, which is very important to all our lives. It's integral. Money is directly linked to freedom, in my opinion. I really do believe that. And it's why we try and teach people how to become financially free. And we think crypto offers an opportunity to do that, potentially. I've certainly done it for myself, and I think I can imitate that for you guys. And it's why we ultimately cover these opportunities, because I care about you guys. I want you guys to do well. I want you to succeed. And we're highlighting what is a massive industry in the Web2 space, and it's going to be even bigger in the Web3 space. And actually, depending on who you listen to, the DePIN sector, decentralized physical infrastructure sector, is set to rise. The Internet of Things, which is kind of the same thing almost, but a little bit different, is set to rise. It kind of incorporates the Internet of Things to around about $3 trillion by 2030. Some say 2028. And that's bigger. That's nearly another half of what the cryptocurrency market is worth today. And the entire market cap of stocks sits at 101 trillion. So I do believe we're going to enter a world where we've seen Bitcoin get to $1 trillion. Some of these cryptos, and it might be some in the DePIN sector, if they can grip hold of the world in such a manner, are going to become potentially $1 trillion companies. Certainly with the continued proliferation of the monetary system, it doesn't seem that far out of the realms of possibility. And you can see this is a really good, this is from Peak Network, who we covered yesterday. This is their kind of schematic in regards to the Internet of Things. You've got things like 5G networks, which you need physical infrastructure for. We're going to be looking at some of those plays in this video. Flight trackers, you've got Wi-Fi networks, again, in regards to the networks that we're going to be looking at. Things like health trackers, all of this is going to interoperate, and this is what the real metaverse essentially is. So just like with crypto doing lots of different things, just like with the physical infrastructure that the internet is built on, DePIN is essentially mimicking that, but doing it in a decentralized fashion and using tokens to essentially incentivize people to run the hardware and get rewarded for doing it. Instead of the institution just getting rewarded for it, it's kind of decentralizing it in the same way that instead of a central bank running the entire monetary system of the world, we're giving it to node runners. You know, we're decentralizing it, and DePIN is nothing short of continuation of that. And this is honestly going to be one of the biggest sectors. And just like you've got Amazon with their storage networks, you can see over here, you've got VPN networks, you've got compute. You can see things like a cache, Flux. We've covered lots of these. We own some of them. And if you want to unlock my portfolio, do become a Patreon. You've got specific compute things like render, live peer for GPUs. Remember, NVIDIA is a GPU play, essentially. And that's a $2 trillion company. You know, some of these are not even billion-dollar cryptos. There's a massive opportunity here. But the specific sector we're going to be focusing on in this one is the wireless networks. Now, having kind of explained DePIN just being essentially a decentralized version that's incentivized by tokens, you know, people will say, well, why do we need tokens? We don't need tokens for the internet, but you have companies that run the internet and they have shares. It's kind of a different, it's a morphing of that, if that makes sense. But we know what DePIN is. It's essentially a decentralized version of the infrastructure that runs the internet, and it's going to enable the next generation of the internet, which is Web3. The evolution of the internet. You have within that, again, different things, and the wireless networks are important. So if you think about Wi-Fi, I have a Wi-Fi box. You might have a dongle, or you can get things from EE and things like that, that are essentially pieces of hardware that you put into your house, and they will allow you to gain access to wireless networks, the internet essentially, or things like Bluetooth, whatever it may be. You know, it's all done with hardware, and that hardware is offered right now by institutions, but these wireless network DePIN plays are essentially looking to offer an alternative in a decentralized version where you actually get rewarded for contributing. You can contribute to running the internet, essentially, in regards to these wireless networks. And we're going to be discussing 3 of these projects with you guys. You can see within wireless networks, you've got subcategories, just like within compute, you've got subcategories or storage. The one that I want to look at first is 5G networks and LoRaWAN networks. Obviously, the main one here and the one we're really interested in is Helium. So very quickly, what is Helium for anybody who's unfamiliar? Well, it's essentially like a Wi-Fi box that you buy and you provide network coverage for whatever area you're in. Okay, so you don't need to go to these institutions. You can use something like Helium. You buy their box and you get rewarded for using it. So you could host these anywhere. And ultimately, right now, they aren't massively used. We are seeing usage uptick. But if you think about a shift and the narrative of decentralizing money being important, it's very important to decentralized networks that uphold privacy. If you think about people getting on board with this and a real mania and kind of interaction, an excelled interaction taking place with these, something like Helium could be the network of tomorrow. And it will essentially allow for connectivity through decentralized systems rather than centralized ones that will uphold your privacy. They'll allow you to own your data and these sort of things. And the interesting thing is we're only going to look at 3 plays, but they all look very similar in regards to where they're at currently in regards to price and where they're potentially going. So the first one that we're identifying is Helium. Very, very interesting project. The current market cap of Helium is 1.3 billion. Remember, we have trillion-dollar companies that offer similar things, or multiple hundreds of billion-dollar companies that offer similar things. This is all going to be dependent on the adoption of this. This is the network effect, Metcalfe's law. And ultimately, if we go over to TradingView and we look at the price of this, this is now a broken out chart. So we identify the market in 4 stages. Stage 1 is a base, which this was, and you've taken that resistance on volume, and this is now in an uptrending market. And this is at a time when the DePIN narrative is really going to come to the forefront. So Helium is the first one that we've looked at, but something like Helium is very interesting, this idea of decentralizing a network. The next one that I want to talk to you guys about is World Mobile. Now, we have actually interviewed Mickey from World Mobile. Very interesting project. They essentially, again, are providing hardware for people to gain sort of 5G access, network access, internet in places where they don't have it. You know, they're doing a lot in the likes of Zimbabwe and places like that, and creating entirely new economies based off of these essentially pieces of hardware, these masts that you attach the hardware to and you provide internet for that area. And actually, the interesting thing with World Mobile Token is in places that didn't currently have the internet, but everyone's got a smartphone, which is why Web3 is going to be adopted perhaps at a faster rate than Web2. The interesting thing with this project is that actually when we've seen these masks go up, we've seen actually like kind of communities form around them, because it's where they can get access and it's where they can sell things, and you've seen trade open up and things like that. And this is the beautiful thing about Web3 and what it's doing. Now, this is a $96 million project. It's not one that I personally own. Again, if we look at the chart of this, it looks very similar. It looks to be, in my opinion, essentially basing out. It's further behind than Helium. I'd say Helium's a stronger one. But this could be ready to go on a run, having now potentially base. And you'd want to look for support levels to be taken, preferably on volume. Last one that I want to cover with you guys is something called Nodal, which is leveraging Polkadot, essentially. This is a company that is essentially looking to power the decentralized network of the future by turning your smartphone into a node, a Bluetooth node. And every time you kind of walk and connect, you get rewarded as a result of it. This is in the kind of Bluetooth sector. This is a far smaller project. I do honestly believe there's some huge opportunities in these. You know, if we look at this as a market cap, this is a $20 million market cap. And if they succeed and see any kind of real adoption, and we see this DePIN mania, a project like this could do quite well. There's loads of them out there. You could look at this map, this DePIN map, and really pick whichever one you wanted. These are just some that we're highlighting, and we're only highlighting one sector in what is a broad sector that encapsulates the entire DePIN space. Again, if we look at the price of Nodal, you can see a similar thing. Basing out and now looking for upside. And this is why we look at multiple markets or multiple different assets in the same kind of category of assets or like DePIN, for example, and wireless DePIN to be specifically. And they all look to be basing out and now looking for more upside. And it's absolutely important that I share these opportunities with you guys. I'm not necessarily shilling or promoting these three projects, but I am saying, guys, you need to start paying attention to DePIN and you need to start paying attention to specific sectors. And we are going to look to build a portfolio that kind of has a bit of everything in it, but probably will look to imitate what the most valuable companies are on the stock market, what they do, and be more in those than others. If you want to get on board with that, do consider becoming a Patreon. That's really all I've got for you guys. I just wanted to kind of highlight DePIN more broadly, which we think is one of the biggest opportunities in the crypto space that presents itself today, if not the biggest. And we have previously said that a long time ago, well before everyone started coming out and getting on board the sort of train. But the train still, in my opinion, hasn't left the station. We are seeing a lot of positive charts come to the forefront. If you look at something like Render, for example, which is GPUs, that's going on to new all-time highs. And above, there's lots of other GPU plays out there. But within DePIN, we're highlighting the wireless sector, which is this kind of idea of providing a decentralized hardware network to enable a decentralized wireless economy. And I think there's incentives for people to get on board with this. Once the masses start waking up to this and we're moving into this kind of AI, techno, different economy altogether where labor actually becomes less and less of a thing, certainly with the emergence of robots and stuff like that, which is for an entirely different video. I think these are going to play more of a role. You know, data is going to become more and more like currency, if you will. And it's going to be an interesting world that we're moving towards. And this all ties in, DePIN ties in, and is going to enable the Internet of Things. You know, blockchain isn't and doesn't just have the application of Bitcoin and being able to run a global ledger for a store of value. It has far broader applications like the Internet of Things, like DePIN, you know, like the remittance markets is, like DeFi, whatever it may be. And we're going to share all those opportunities with you as we see them. So that's really all I've got for you guys. If you've enjoyed the content, like, appreciate it as a comment. These were just 3 of many. We did show a list of kind of, or a map from Messari of their kind of DePIN. Dive into these projects, do your own due diligence, and of course, make your own decisions. That's all I've got for you guys. Thanks for watching.